Listen and do not scroll past this moment lightly, because something just shifted. Not around you, but for you. You didn't just click on this message. You didn't just happen to see these words at this exact second. No. This is what a divine interruption feels like. This is what it feels like when heaven steps into your timeline and says, "Pause. Pay attention. This one is yours." Have you felt it recently? That strange tension in your chest when you think about your children, that quiet fear you couldn't explain when a medical report came back uncertain, that pressure in your spirit when finances didn't align the way they were supposed to. You smiled. You stayed strong. You told yourself, "It will be okay." But deep inside something kept whispering, "Something isn't right." That whisper was not anxiety, but was awareness. And now, right now, you are being given confirmation that what you felt was real, but it was not the end of the story. Because while you were trying to stay calm on the outside, while you were holding everything together for your family, while you were praying quietly, sometimes without words, something else was happening. Something you could not see. A bell was forming. A weapon was being shaped. A report was being prepared with your name attached to it. And it wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. It was targeted, strategic, timed. But here is what changes everything. Before that weapon could reach you, before that report could finalize its outcome, before that fear could become your reality, heaven intervened. Do you understand what that means? It means the story you were about to walk into has already been rewritten. It means the outcome you feared has already been overturned. It means what looked like it was forming against you has already shattered in a realm you could not see. And that is why this message found you now. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. Because timing in the spirit is everything. There are moments when heaven whispered it. There are moments when heaven interrupts. This is not a whisper. This is an interruption. This is the moment where Archangel Michael steps forward, not as a distant symbol, but as a present protector, and draws a line that nothing assigned against your family can cross. This is the moment where Jesus himself declares that what was formed will not prosper. And you are standing right in the middle of that declaration. You may not see the full picture yet. You may not understand how things will turn. You may still be waiting for the call, the message, the update, the result, but something has already changed, and your spirit knows it. That's why you paused here. That's why you're still reading. That's why something inside you is saying, "Keep going, there's more." Because there is more. This is only the beginning. The shift has started, but the revelation is just unfolding. And in the next moment, you are going to understand what it means when a circle of fire is drawn, not around you, but around your children. Type "I receive divine interruption" in the comments if you feel this message is for you. Blessing code 1212 is now activated around your household. And now listen carefully, because what you are about to understand is not symbolic. It is not poetic. It is not imagination. It is protection in motion. At the very moment when fear tried to rise in your heart, at the very second when uncertainty began to circle your thoughts about your children, something invisible but undeniable was activated around them. And you felt it, didn't you? That sudden urge to check on them. That instinct to pray without even knowing why. That unexplainable pull to cover them in your thoughts. That was not coincidence. That was alignment. Because in that exact moment, Archangel Michael stepped forward. Not in silence. Not in distance. But in authority. And what he did next changed everything. He drew a circle. Not a physical line that eyes can see, but a spiritual boundary that nothing assigned against your children can cross. A circle of fire. A perimeter of divine authority. a living shield fueled by heaven itself. This was not a reaction. This was a declaration. You understand what a circle of fire means. It means separation. It means distinction. It means that what is inside is preserved, and what is outside has no access. It means that every unseen threat, every whispered plan, every silent assignment that tried to locate your children has now been blocked by something far greater than human strength. This is not ordinary protection. This is targeted protection. Because your children are not random. Their lives are not casual. Their paths are not unguarded. There is something on them, something the enemy recognized long before you did. That is why the tension came. That is why the fear tried to attach. That is why the reports, the conversations, the situations seemed to align in a way that felt too precise to ignore. But here is the truth you must hold on to now before anything could touch them. Heaven surrounded them. You may have seen moments where things almost went wrong. Moments where situations looked like they could have turned in a different direction. Moments where you said, that could have been worse. Those were not lucky escapes. Those were intersections with the circle. The fire was already there. It intercepted what you never fully saw. And right now, that same fire is active. It is not fading. It is not weakening. It is intensifying. Archangel Michael does not draw incomplete boundaries. When he establishes protection, it is precise, intentional, and unbreakable by anything that does not carry divine authority. And right now, your children are standing inside that precision. That is why something inside you is beginning to calm down, even if your situation has not fully changed yet. That is why your spirit is slowly releasing the grip of fear, even if the report has not yet been updated. Because protection comes before evidence. You are being asked to trust what has already been established in the unseen before it becomes visible in your reality. And there is something else you must not overlook. The fire does not only protect, it exposes. Anything that tries to approach your children with the wrong intention cannot remain hidden anymore. The same circle that shields them also reveals what is not aligned. That means conversations will shift. That means environments will change. That means people who once had access may suddenly feel distant, disconnected, or removed. Do not resist that. Do not question that. That is the fire doing its work. You may notice changes in behavior. You may notice sudden clarity about situations that once felt confusing. You may even see things come to light that surprise you. That is not disruption. That is protection becoming visible. Because when heaven draws a line, everything on the wrong side begins to scatter. And here is the part that should settle your spirit completely. This circle was not drawn temporarily. It was drawn with purpose. This is not a momentary shield. This is a strategic covering for a season that is critical to your children's path. There is something ahead of them, something significant, something defining, and this protection is ensuring that they reach it untouched by what tried to intercept them early. You were not too late. You were not unaware. You were being positioned. And now, as this circle of fire remains active, you are being invited into a different posture. Not panic, not fear, not overthinking, but confidence. Because what is inside that circle is not vulnerable, it is secured. And what is secured by heaven cannot be undone by anything formed in opposition. Let that settle in your spirit. Let that silence every fear that tried to rise. Let that remind you that before anything could happen, something greater already did. Type "My children are covered" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2222 is now activated around your children. Listen closely, because this is where everything begins to turn in a way you did not expect. What was formed against you did not disappear. It shattered. There is a difference, and you must understand it. Because something was indeed created. Something was indeed aligned. Something was indeed moving toward your name, your household, your children. It was not imagined. It was not exaggerated. It was real. The pressure you felt, the uneasiness that lingered, the sudden thoughts that didn't feel like your own, the weight that came without explanation, all of that was connected to something forming behind the scenes. A weapon. Not always physical, not always visible, but intentional. It came through reports that looked final. It came through numbers that didn't add up. It came through diagnoses that sounded too heavy. It came through conversations that planted seeds of fear. It came through delays that made you question your progress. It came through doors that almost opened but didn't. It came through patterns that made you wonder, why does this keep happening? That was the weapon taking shape. Piece by piece. Word by word. Moment by moment. But here is what changes everything, and you must receive this fully. Before that weapon could complete its assignment, before it could land with full force, before it could define your outcome, Jesus intervened. Not quietly, not passively, but with authority that cannot be challenged. And when he spoke, it did not weaken the weapon. It shattered it. You understand the power of that. A weakened weapon can still function. A delayed weapon can still return. But a shattered weapon has lost its structure. It has lost its alignment. It has lost its ability to carry out what it was designed to do. It no longer holds together. It no longer has direction. It no longer has power. That is what has happened in the spirit realm concerning your situation. What looked like it was building strength has already collapsed. What looked like it was gaining momentum has already been broken apart. And here is why this matters so deeply for you right now. Because you may still be looking at the fragments. You may still be seeing pieces of what used to be forming. You may still hear echoes of the report. You may still feel traces of the fear. You may still notice signs that make it seem like nothing has changed yet. But that is because you are seeing what remains after the shattering, not what was destroyed in the moment of intervention. And this is where many people miss the miracle. They wait for everything to look different before they believe something has changed. But in the spirit, it changes first. And it appears. Right now, you are standing in the space between those two realities. The weapon has already been broken, but the evidence is still catching up. That is why this moment requires your awareness. Because what happens next depends on whether you align with what has already been declared or whether you keep responding to what no longer holds power. Jesus did not say the weapon might fail. He declared it has already lost. That means the report you fear does not have final authority. That means the numbers you saw are not the final outcome. That means the diagnosis that shook you does not get the last word. That means the situation that felt fixed is now flexible. Something has been overturned, and it is already in motion. You may begin to notice small shifts first, subtle changes, unexpected updates, conversations that take a different tone, results that start to look slightly different, opportunities that reappear, doors that open where there was resistance before. Do not overlook those moments. Those are not coincidences. Those are confirmations. Because when something shatters in the spirit, it does not rebuild the same way again. It restructures differently. It reorders outcomes. It redirects paths. It creates openings where there were none. And you are about to witness that. But there is something you must hold on to as this unfolds. Do not go back into fear. Do not rebuild in your mind what has already been broken in the spirit. Do not give power to something that has already lost its structure, because the moment you do that, you begin to align with fragments instead of truth. Stay with what has been declared. Stay with what has already been done. Stay with the understanding that you are not waiting for victory, you are watching it unfold. And as this unfolds, you will begin to realize something deeper. This was never just about stopping a weapon. It was about revealing the authority over your life. It was about showing you that what is spoken over you by heaven carries more weight than anything formed against you. And now that you know that, you will not respond the same way again. Type "the weapon is shattered" in the comments if you receive this truth. Blessing code 3333 is now activated over your name and your household. As this truth settles into your spirit, understand this: every time a message like this reaches someone in their darkest moment, a chain is broken, a mind is renewed, and a life is redirected toward light. When you sow into this mission, you are not giving to a channel. You are planting seeds into souls that are crying out for clarity. The word says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is not history. It is happening through you right now. I feel led to say this clearly. I am choosing to be a vessel that helps others hear what heaven is saying. And as you step into that same obedience, your seed becomes fire that reaches places you may never see, but heaven records every impact. This is a moment, not to hesitate, but to act in alignment with what is stirring inside you. Release your support through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, and let your giving become a river that carries God's voice further than ever before. Those who move now will witness multiplication in ways that cannot be explained. Act on this instruction. Listen carefully, because this part is where many people either step into alignment or miss what has already been released for them. There is a reason urgency has been surrounding this message from the very beginning. There is a reason you felt that pull to stop, to listen, to not delay this moment. There is a reason it felt like you needed to open this now, not later. That is not pressure. That is positioning. Because in the spiritual realm, timing is not casual. Timing is strategic. And right now, you are standing inside a window that was not randomly opened. It was appointed. It was marked. It was prepared before you even recognized what was happening around you. This is what you must understand. Not every moment carries the same weight. Not every day carries the same opportunity. There are specific moments when heaven aligns protection, revelation, and reversal at the same time. This is one of those moments, and that is why the sense of urgency is so strong. Because what has already been done in the spirit is now moving toward manifestation, and your awareness determines how you walk through it. If you move with it, you step into clarity, peace, and acceleration. But if you ignore it, delay it, or dismiss it, you risk responding to situations as if nothing has changed. That is how people stay in cycles that were already broken for them. You are not being rushed. You are being aligned. Because the countdown you feel is not about fear. It is about synchronization. It is about bringing your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations, and your faith into agreement with what has already been declared over your life and your children. Think about this for a moment. Have you noticed how certain things have been intensifying recently? Conversations happening faster. Situations unfolding more quickly. Emotions rising more suddenly. Decisions needing to be made without long delays. It feels like everything has accelerated. That is not chaos. That is timing compressing. When a shift is close, everything begins to move differently. The pace changes. The pressure increases. The clarity starts pushing through the confusion. And in that moment, you are invited to respond differently than you did before. Because the old way of reacting no longer fits the new reality that has already been established. This is why you cannot afford to carry yesterday's fear into today's moment. Because yesterday's fear was based on something that still looked whole. But today, the same thing has already been shattered. And if you continue responding from the old perspective, you will feel out of sync with what is actually happening. This is where timing becomes critical. Because the next few moments, the next conversations, the next updates you receive, they are not random. They are connected to what has already been released. And your response to them will either align with the reversal or delay your experience of it. You are not trying to make something happen. You are stepping into what is already happening. And that requires awareness. It requires stillness. It requires a decision to trust what you cannot yet fully see, because something inside you already recognizes that this moment is different. That is why you are still here. That is why your attention has not drifted. That is why something inside you is saying, stay present. This matters. Because it does. You are not waiting for a sign that something is changing. You are inside the moment where it is changing. And now, everything becomes about how you move forward. Do you return to worry when new information comes in? Or do you pause and remember that the outcome has already been altered? Do you react immediately out of habit? Or do you step back and allow clarity to guide your response? Do you allow fear to speak first? Or do you let what has already been declared settle your spirit before you respond? These choices may seem small, but they are directly connected to how you experience what is unfolding. Because when timing is aligned, even small decisions carry weight. And right now, you are being guided into alignment, not confusion. You are being positioned to move with what is already shifting, not against it. You are being called to recognize that this is not just another moment in your life. This is a turning point. A moment where what was hidden begins to show itself. A moment where what was blocked begins to open. A moment where what felt fixed begins to move. And you are standing right in the middle of it. So do not rush past this. Do not dismiss what you feel. Do not delay your awareness. Because this window is active now. And as you remain present in it, you will begin to see something unfold that you did not expect. Not slowly, not eventually, but suddenly. Type "I move in divine timing" in the comments if you are aligned with this moment. Blessing code 4444 is now activated over your timing and your path. Now listen even deeper, because what you are about to understand will explain everything that did not make sense before. There was a battle. Not the kind you could see with your eyes. Not the kind people around you would recognize or even believe. But a precise, calculated, and intentional battle that was unfolding behind the scenes while you were simply trying to live your life, protect your children, and hold everything together. And the reason it felt so confusing is because it was hidden. You saw the symptoms but not the source. You saw the stress but not the strategy. You saw the delays but not the design behind them. And because of that, there were moments where you questioned yourself. Moments where you wondered if you were overthinking, overreacting, or imagining things. Moments where you tried to rationalize what your spirit was already sensing. But let this settle in you now. You were not imagining it. There was movement happening beyond what you could see. There were forces aligning situations, shaping conversations, influencing outcomes, and attempting to guide things in a direction that did not belong to you or your children. It was subtle. It was quiet. It was layered in a way that made it difficult to detect with logic alone. That is why it affected your spirit first. Because your spirit recognized something before your mind could explain it. Have you noticed how certain things just felt off without a clear reason? How certain interactions left you uneasy even when nothing obvious was said? How certain outcomes didn't match the effort you put in? How certain doors closed at the exact moment they should have opened? That was not randomness. That was resistance. There were attempts to redirect your path, to interfere with timing, to create confusion where clarity was supposed to be, and to introduce pressure where peace was meant to remain. Not everything that was happening around you came from visible circumstances. Some of it came from unseen influence. But here is what changes everything now. While that hidden battle was unfolding, you were not alone in it. You were not unprotected. You were not unaware in the way you thought you were. Because at the same time that things were being arranged against you, something else was being arranged for you. Protection was being positioned. Intervention was being prepared. And timing was being recalibrated. That means that even in the moments where it looked like things were slipping, something else was holding them in place. Even when it felt like you were losing ground, something else was preventing a full collapse. Even when outcomes seemed uncertain, something else was already working to reverse them. This is why nothing fully broke. This is why nothing completely fell apart. This is why you are still standing in a position where change is possible. Because the hidden battle was never one-sided. And now, the part that was hidden from you is being revealed so you can understand what has already shifted. The resistance you felt had been disrupted. The alignment that was forming against you has been broken. The patterns that were trying to establish themselves have been interrupted. And what once operated quietly in the background can no longer remain hidden. This is where exposure begins. Because once a hidden battle is interrupted, it does not stay invisible. It starts to surface. You may begin to notice things becoming clearer. Situations that once confused you may suddenly make sense. People's actions may reveal intentions you didn't see before. Circumstances may begin to shift in ways that feel sudden but are actually the result of what has already been changed behind the scenes. Do not ignore those moments. They are not coincidences. They are evidence. Evidence that something you could not see has already been dealt with. And as this continues, you may feel a different kind of awareness rising in you. A sharper sense of what feels right and what does not. A bigger recognition of what aligns and what does not. A stronger confidence in your decisions without needing as much external confirmation. That is not random growth. That is the result of clarity being restored. Because once the hidden battle is exposed and interrupted, your ability to move forward becomes stronger. You are no longer navigating through confusion. You are moving with understanding. And that changes everything. You will not second-guess the same way. You will not hesitate the same way. You will not ignore what you feel the same way. Because now you know that what you sensed before had a source. And more importantly, you now know that it had been handled. This is the moment where you stop looking at what was happening as isolated events and begin to see it as something that has already been addressed in a way that goes beyond what you could have done on your own. You were not meant to fight this with effort alone. You were meant to be covered while it was being handled. And now that it has been handled, you are being brought into awareness so you can move differently. With clarity. With confidence. With the understanding that what was hidden no longer has control over your direction. Let that settle fully. Type "the hidden battle is over" in the comments if you receive this clarity. Blessing code 5555 is now activated over your awareness and your path forward. Now listen closer because this is the part where everything becomes personal. not in fear but in understanding. Because what you have been walking through was not random, and it was not because you were weak, unprepared, or unfortunate. It was because there is something on your name, something attached to your life, something connected to your children that carries weight, and that weight attracted attention. You must understand this clearly now. Not every life is targeted the same way. Not every household experiences the same level of resistance. Not every name carries the same kind of assignment. And that is why what you went through felt so specific, so precise, so difficult to explain to others who were not experiencing it with you. Because this was not general. This was targeted. There was something about your path that required interruption. Something about your progress that needed to be delayed. Something about your children that needed to be monitored. Something about your future that needed to be interfered with. And the reason for that is not what you may have thought. It was not because you were vulnerable. It was because you were valuable. Let that settle in you. Because many people misunderstand this moment. They look at the pressure, the confusion, the resistance, and they assume it is a sign that something is wrong with them. But in reality, it is often a sign that something is right. That there is something ahead of you that carries significance. That there is something connected to your children that matters beyond what you can currently see. That there is something about your name that holds influence, impact, and direction that has not yet fully unfolded. And that is why the attention came. Not to affirm you, but to test you. Not to celebrate you, but to challenge you. Not to support you, but to see if you would shift under pressure. And for a moment it almost worked. There were moments where you felt uncertain. Moments where you questioned your decisions. Moments where you wondered if you were doing enough, being enough, protecting enough. Moments where the weight felt heavier than usual, and the clarity you once had seemed just out of reach. But here is what you must recognize now. Even in those moments you did not stop. Even when you felt unsure, you continued. Even when things did not make sense, you stayed present. Even when you felt the pressure, you did not collapse. And that matters more than you realize. Because the test was never about perfection. It was about persistence. It was about whether you would remain in position long enough for what was being arranged for you to reach you. And you did. You stayed. You endured. You continue. And now, the reason for the targeting is being revealed in a different way. Not through pressure, but through clarity. Because what once came against your name is now being reversed in your favor. The same intensity that brought resistance is now being redirected into restoration. The same focus that once tried to interrupt you is now being used to position you. The same attention that once created pressure is now creating movement in your direction. This is where everything begins to shift. Because when something hath been specifically targeted, its reversal is also specific. This is not a general change. This is a precise adjustment connected directly to your life, your children, your situation. That is why what is about to unfold will not look the same for everyone. It will be personal. It will be noticeable. It will carry details that you recognize immediately, because you are the one who walked through what led to this moment. And here is what you must hold on to now. Do not shrink back from this realization. Do not downplay what you have been through. Do not dismiss the weight of what you carried. Because all of it is connected to what is now being released. You were not just going through something. You were being prepared through something. Prepared to recognize the shift when it comes. Prepared to move differently when things begin to open. Prepared to handle what is coming with a level of awareness you did not have before. This is why you cannot return to the mindset you had at the beginning of this process. Because you are no longer in the same position. You are no longer navigating the same conditions. You are no longer under the same pressure. Something has changed. And now, you are stepping into the part of the process where what once targeted you begins to work in your favor. Not solely, not eventually, but in a way that you will recognize as intentional. Because it is. Type "My name is covered and chosen" in the comments if you receive this truth. Blessing code 6666 is now activated over your name, your identity, and your future path. And now listen carefully, because this is where everything you have felt begins to make sense in a way that cannot be ignored anymore. The shift you have been waiting for has not just been promised. It has already started. But here is the part that most people miss: it does not always begin in a way that is loud, obvious, or immediately undeniable. It often begins in moments so subtle that if you are not paying attention, you will overlook them completely. And yet, those moments carry everything. Think back over the last few days, maybe even the last few hours. Have you noticed anything different? A small sense of calm where there used to be pressure. A moment of clarity where there used to be confusion. A conversation that felt slightly easier than expected. A delay that, instead of frustrating you, gave you time you didn't realize you needed. A thought that came to you suddenly, bringing direction where there had been uncertainty. These are not random occurrences. These are signals. Signals that something has already begun to rearrange itself in your favor. Because when a reversal starts, it rarely announces itself all at once. It unfolds in layers. It begins quietly, almost unnoticed, until it builds into something undeniable. And right now, you are standing at the very beginning of that unfolding. This is why your awareness matters so much in this moment. Because the signs are not always dramatic at first, but they are consistent. You may notice people responding to you differently. Situations that once felt blocked suddenly becoming flexible. Opportunities that seemed closed starting to reopen. Information reaching you at the right time, without you having to search for it. And even within yourself, something is changing. Your reactions are shifting. Your thoughts are becoming clearer. Your emotions are becoming more stable. You are not responding the same way you did before. And that is one of the strongest signs that the reversal has already started. Because when things change externally, they first begin to change internally. You are being recalibrated, aligned, positioned to handle what is coming next. And here is something even more important that you must recognize. The shift is not just about fixing what was wrong. It is about establishing something better. That means what is coming is not just a return to what you had before the pressure began. It is an upgrade, a correction that leads to improvement, a restoration that carries more strength than what existed previously. This is why the process feels different. Because you are not being taken back, you are being taken forward. And as this continues, the signs will become more visible. What starts as small adjustments will grow into noticeable changes. You may receive updates that contradict what you were first told. You may see results that improve unexpectedly. You may experience outcomes that do not match the direction things seemed to be going before. And when that happens, you will recognize it immediately. Because it will not feel forced. It will feel aligned. It will feel like something has finally fallen into place. That is the nature of a true reversal. It does not struggle to happen. It flows into position. But here is where you must remain aware. Do not dismiss the early signs just because they are not yet dramatic. Do not wait for something big before you acknowledge that something has already changed. Because the moment you begin to recognize the small shifts, you align yourself more fully with the larger ones that are on the way. This is about awareness. This is about staying present. This is about trusting what is already unfolding, even before it reaches its full expression. Because you are not at the beginning of the problem anymore. You are at the beginning of the solution. And that changes everything. There is a momentum building now. A movement that cannot be reversed back to where it started. What has begun will continue. What has shifted will expand. What has been corrected will continue to correct itself. And you are moving with it. Not behind it. Not chasing it. But aligned with it. That is why you feel what you feel right now. That quiet confidence beginning to rise. That sense that something is different, even if you cannot yet explain it fully. That awareness that you are no longer in the same position you were before. Because you are not. You have crossed into a different phase. A phase where what was once uncertain begins to stabilize. Where what once felt heavy begins to lift. Where what once seemed fixed begins to move. And this is only the beginning. Type I see the shift in the comments if you recognize these signs. Blessing code 7777 is now activated over your awareness and your unfolding breakthrough. Now listen closely because this is the part you have been waiting for, even if you did not know how to put it into words. The report you saw is not the final version. What was written is not permanent. What was spoken over your situation is not the conclusion. Because something has already begun to move in a direction that will contradict what you were first told. And you must understand this clearly, because if you do not, you may miss the moment when it happens. Reports are formed based on what is visible at a specific point in time. They are built on information that is gathered, measured, calculated, and concluded within a limited perspective. Whether it is medical, financial, or situational, a report reflects what was seen at that moment, not what is possible beyond it. And that is where the shift begins. Because what has already been released over your life does not operate within the limitations of that moment. It operates beyond it. And means what was written when conditions look a certain way now being affected by conditions that are changing. You may not see the full change yet, but it is already influencing the outcome. This is why you must prepare yourself for contradiction. Because the same place that gave you one result will soon present another. The same system that delivered one answer will begin to reveal a different one. The same situation that felt fixed will start to show movement. And when that happens, it may feel sudden. It may feel unexpected. It may even feel difficult to explain logically. But it will not be random. It will be the result of what has already shifted in the unseen now reaching the seen. You may receive a follow-up call that changes the tone of everything. You may see numbers adjust in a way that does not match the original trend. You may hear new information that replaces what you were told before. You may experience a delay that, instead of holding you back, ends up repositioning everything in your favor. These are not coincidences. These are reversals. And reversals do not always announce themselves in advance. They appear in the moment when everything begins to move differently than expected. That is why you must stay aware. Because when the report begins to change, you must recognize it for what it is. Not luck. Not chance. Not a simple correction. But a direct result of what has already been declared over your situation. There is something else you must understand about this moment. The change will not always be dramatic all at once. Sometimes it begins with small adjustments, a slight improvement, a minor correction, a subtle shift, and those small changes build into something undeniable. Because once a reversal starts, it does not stop halfway. It continues until the outcome reflects the new direction that has been established. That is why patience and awareness must remain together. You are not waiting for something to happen. You are watching something unfold. And as it unfolds, your role is not to question it but to stay aligned with it. Do not return to the fear that came with the first report. Do not hold on to the expectation that things will remain the same. Do not prepare yourself for the worst when something better has already begun. Because the moment you do that, you create resistance within yourself. And right now, this moment requires alignment, not resistance. You are being positioned to receive the updated outcome, not the original one, the corrected one, the adjusted one, the one that reflects what has already shifted. And when it fully arrives, you will recognize it immediately, because it will not carry the same weight as before. It will carry relief, verity, resolution. That is how you will know, because what once brought tension will now bring release. What once created uncertainty will now bring direction. What once felt heavy will now feel lifted. And when that moment comes, you will understand why everything had to unfold the way it did. Because it was not just about changing a report. It was about revealing that what was written does not have the final authority over your life. That authority has already spoken. And now, what is written is catching up to it. Type "My report is reversing" in the comments if you receive this truth. Lesson code 8888 is now activated over every report connected to your name in your household. As this revelation settles into your spirit, understand this: every time a message like this reaches someone standing at the edge of fear, a new path opens for them to step into faith and clarity. When you release your support through Super Thanks or PayPal, you are not just giving. You are sowing into a harvest of transformed lives, where confusion turns into direction and despair turns into hope. The Word declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and this is your moment to become part of that living promise. I feel this strongly. I am stepping forward as a vessel to help carry this light to others who are still searching. And as you respond in obedience, your seed becomes a flame that reaches hearts across the world, igniting change you may never see, but heaven records every impact. Do not delay this moment. Move now, through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, and let your action align with what God is doing through you. Those who act in this moment will witness a return that goes beyond expectation. Step into it now. Now listen carefully, because this is where everything becomes deeply connected to you, not just what is happening around you. The shift has started. The weapon has been shattered. The report is already changing. The protection is already in place. But there is something that determines how fully and how quickly you experience what has already been released. Your alignment. And that alignment is built through something that cannot be forced, borrowed, or replaced. Faith, not passive belief. My hopeful thinking, not waiting without understanding, but active alignment with what has already been declared, even when your eyes have not yet caught up to it. This is where many people lose momentum, not because the shift did not happen, but because they disconnected from it. They return to old thoughts, old fears, old reactions, and without realizing it, they begin to respond to a situation that no longer exists in the same way. You cannot afford to do that now, because what is unfolding requires your participation, not your doubt. Faith, in this moment, is not about hoping something will happen. It is about recognizing that something has already happened and choosing to move in agreement with it. That means when new information comes in, you do not immediately react with fear. You pause. You remember. You align. That means when you feel uncertainty trying to return, you do not entertain it the same way. You acknowledge it, but you do not follow it. It means when things do not fully look different yet, you do not assume nothing has changed. You stay grounded in what you already know has been declared. This is what activates the miracle, not forcing the outcome, not controlling every detail, but remaining in agreement with what has already been released. Because when your internal state aligns with the shift, you stop creating resistance. And once resistance is removed, things begin to move more freely. This is why you may notice something different about yourself now. A sense of calm that was not there before. A clarity that feels unfamiliar but strong. A quiet confidence that does not need constant reassurance. That is not accidental. That is alignment beginning to take place. And as it continues, your actions will begin to reflect it. You will respond differently. You will speak differently. You will make decisions with a level of clarity that you did not have before. And those decisions will connect you directly to the outcomes that are already forming. Because faith is not just internal. It shows up in how you move, in how you respond, in how you choose. This is why this moment matters so much. Because you are no longer reacting to a problem. You are aligning with a solution. And when you do that consistently, the gap between what has already shifted and what you can see begins to close. Faster than you expect. This is where sudden change becomes possible. Because sudden change is not random. It is the result of alignment meeting timing. And both are present right now. But here is something else you must hold on to. Faith does not mean you will not feel moments of uncertainty. It means those moments will not control your direction. They may come. They may try to pull your attention. But they will not define your response. Because you now have something stronger to stand on. What has already been declared. And that declaration does not change based on how you feel in a moment. It remains. It holds. It continues to move forward. And you are moving with it. Not because you are forcing yourself to believe, but because something inside you already knows. Knows that this moment is different. Knows that something has shifted. Knows that what is coming will not match what you first expected. And that knowing is your anchor. Hold on to it. Or turn to it when needed. Stay aligned with it. Because as you do, you will begin to see the results of that alignment appear in ways that confirm everything you have felt up to this point. Not eventually, but in ways that feel timely, intentional, accurate. This is not about convincing yourself of something. This is about staying connected to what has already begun and allowing it to fully unfold. Type "I walk by faith, not by fear" in the comments if you are aligned with this truth. Blessing code 9999 is now activated over your faith, your alignment, and your unfolding breakthrough. And now listen carefully, because what is about to unfold next will not remain hidden. Everything that operated quietly, everything that worked behind the scenes, everything that tried to influence your situation without being seen is now entering a phase where it can no longer stay concealed. This is the moment of exposure. And you must understand this clearly, because exposure does not always look the way people expect it to. It is not always loud. It is not always dramatic. But it is precise, undeniable, and impossible to ignore once it begins. What was hidden is now being brought into the light. That means the confusion you once felt will start to dissolve. The questions that did not have answers will begin to make sense. The situations that seemed unclear will reveal their true structure. And the things that once operated in silence will no longer be able to function the same way. Because once something is exposed, it loses its advantage. It loses its ability to operate without being recognized. It loses its power to influence without being questioned. And that is exactly what is happening now. You may begin to notice shifts in conversations. Words that once carried weight may now feel empty. Statements that once sounded convincing may now feel misaligned. You may start to see patterns you did not recognize before. Connections between events that once seemed unrelated. Intentions behind actions that were not clear in the moment. This is not overthinking. This is clarity being restored. Because when exposure begins, your perception sharpens. You begin to see what was always there but hidden beneath distraction, pressure, or uncertainty. And here is something even more important. Exposure is not just about seeing what was wrong. It is about separating yourself from it. Because once you recognize something clearly, you are no longer influenced by it in the same way. You no longer respond blindly. You no longer accept things at face value. You no longer allow the same patterns to repeat without awareness. That is where your power shifts. Because awareness changes how you move. And how you move determines what you experience next. This is why this phase matters so much. Because it is not just revealing what was happening. It is repositioning you. You are being moved out of confusion and into clarity. Out of reaction and into understanding. Out of uncertainty and into awareness. And as this continues, the exposure will not remain internal. It will begin to show externally. Situations will correct themselves. Conversations will shift direction. Outcomes will begin to reflect truth rather than what was previously influencing them. This is when you will see things unfold in a way that feels undeniable. Because truth has a way of rising to the surface once it is no longer suppressed. And when it does not need to fight for attention. It becomes obvious. That is what is happening now. What was hidden is losing its ability to stay hidden. What was influencing your situation without clarity is now being revealed. And what once carried weight is now losing its hold. But here is where you must remain steady. Do not react emotionally when you begin to see things clearly. Do not rush to confront, explain, or correct everything at once. Because exposure is not about reaction. It is about recognition. Your strength in this moment comes from staying grounded, from observing without being pulled into unnecessary responses, from allowing what is being revealed to complete its process. Because once something is fully exposed, it resolves itself. You do not have to force the outcome. You do not have to control the process. You do not have to prove anything. Truth carries its own authority. And as it rises, it will align everything accordingly. This is the shift you are entering now. A phase where clarity replaces confusion. Where awareness replaces uncertainty. Where truth replaces distortion. And once that happens, everything connected to your situation begins to move differently. Not because you forced it, but because what was hidden can no longer operate the same way. You are no longer in the dark. You are no longer guessing. You are no longer reacting without understanding. You are seeing clearly. And that changes everything. Type truth is revealed in the comments if you receive this clarity. Blessing code 1010 is now activated over your vision, your awareness, and your unfolding clarity. Now listen closely, because what you are stepping into is not just a continuation of what was. It is a new season. And this season does not carry the same weight, the same pressure, or the same uncertainty that you have been navigating up until now. What you are entering is marked differently. It is structured differently. It is aligned differently. Because everything that had to be interrupted hath been interrupted. Everything that had to be exposed hath been exposed. Everything that had to be broken has been broken. And now, what remains is the beginning of something that moves in your favor. This is where you must shift your mindset completely. You are not recovering anymore. You are advancing. You are not trying to fix what was damaged. You are stepping into what has already been prepared, and that preparation is what defines this new season. You will begin to notice that things no longer require the same level of effort they once did. Situations that used to drain your energy will now resolve more smoothly. Conversations that once created tension will now carry clarity. Decisions that once felt heavy will now feel guided. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. Because when a new season begins, it does not just change what happens around you. It changes how things happen for you. You are no longer moving against resistance. You are moving with flow. And that flow carries three things that you must recognize clearly: protection, favor, and overflow. Protection is no longer something you are asking for. It is something you are walking in. The circle that was drawn has not been removed. It has become part of your environment. That means what is not aligned will not have the same access it once did. What tried to approach you before will now be redirected before it reaches you. What once felt like constant pressure will now feel like distance. You will begin to notice that certain problems no longer reach you at the same intensity. That is protection in motion. Favor is the next part you will begin to recognize. Things will start to work in ways that are not forced. Opportunities will present themselves without you having to chase them. People will respond in ways that feel supportive rather than resistant. Doors will open in moments where you expected delay. And what makes this different is not just that things are working, is how easily they are working. Because favor does not struggle. It aligns. And when it aligns, it removes unnecessary resistance. That is what you are stepping into now. But there is a third part that you must not overlook: overflow. Because this season is not just about stability. It is about increase. What was held back will begin to move forward. What was delayed will begin to catch up. What felt limited will begin to expand. And it will not come in a way that feels forced or overwhelming. It will come in a way that feels natural but undeniable. You will begin to see more than you expected. More clarity. More opportunity. More resolution. More peace. And as that begins to happen, you may find yourself adjusting to a reality that feels unfamiliar at first. Because you became used to managing pressure. You became used to navigating uncertainty. You became used to preparing for resistance. But now, you are stepping into something different. Something that does not require the same defensive posture. Something that allows you to move forward with confidence rather than caution. This is where you must allow yourself to receive. Do not question why things are working. Do not hesitate when opportunities present themselves. Do not pull back when things begin to open. Because this is not a temporary moment. This is a new season. And new seasons require new responses. You are not meant to carry the mindset of the previous phase into what is now unfolding. You are meant to adjust. To recognize that what once defined your experience no longer has the same influence. That you are moving in a different direction now. And that direction is supported. Protected. Aligned. This is where everything begins to feel different. Not because nothing will ever challenge you again, but because what supports you now is stronger than what challenges you. That is the difference. And as you continue to move forward, you will begin to see that what once felt difficult has become manageable. What once felt uncertain has become clear. What once felt delayed has become active. This is the new season you have entered. And it is only just beginning. Type "I walk in my NEW season" in the comments if you receive this truth. Blessing code 1111 is now activated over your protection, your favor, and your overflow. Now listen and do not let your attention drift in this final moment. Because everything that has been revealed to you up until now, everything you have felt, recognized, understood, and received is leading to this. This is not where you pause. This is where you respond. You have been shown the protection. You have been shown the interruption. You have been shown the shattered weapon, the changing report, the exposure, the shift, the new season. None of this was given to you for information alone. It was given to you for activation. Because there is a difference between hearing a message and moving with it. And now, you are being called to move. Not in panic, not in fear, but in alignment. The moment you are in right now is not passive. It is active. It is alive. It is still unfolding. And what you do next determines how fully you step into what has already been released over your life and your children. So what must you do? You must stay aware. Do not fall back into distraction. Do not allow your attention to drift back into patterns that no longer serve where you are now. Because distraction is the fastest way to disconnect from what has already begun. Stay present with what you feel. Stay connected to what you now understand. Because awareness is what keeps you aligned. You must also guard your response. Everything that comes next, every update, every conversation, every shift, you must meet it differently. Not with fear, not with assumption, not with the same reaction patterns you had before, but with clarity. Pause before you respond. Recognize what has already been declared, and then move from that place. Because your response is no longer just reaction. It is alignment. You must also protect your environment. Not in a way that creates distance from everything, but in a way that maintains what has already been established. Pay attention to what feels aligned and what does not. Pay attention to what brings clarity and what brings confusion. Because now, your sensitivity has increased. And that sensitivity is not a weakness. It is guidance. Follow it. And most importantly, you must expect the outcome. Not hope for it. Not wish for it. Expect it. Because expectation positions you differently than doubt ever could. When you expect something, you prepare for it. You recognize it when it appears. You receive it without hesitation. And right now, you are being positioned to receive. Not later. Not eventually. But as this continues to unfold. Because this is not the end of something. This is the beginning of something. A beginning that carries confirmation. A beginning that carries evidence. A beginning that will show you, in ways you cannot deny, that what has been declared over your life is not just words. It is reality in motion. And as you step forward from this moment, you will begin to see it. Not all at once, but clearly, intentionally, accurately, until there is no doubt left. And when that happens, you will remember this moment. A moment you stopped. A moment you listened. A moment you aligned. The moment everything began to change. This is your charge. Stay aware. Stay aligned. Stay ready. Because what is coming next is not something you chase. It is something you witness. Type I receive and move in alignment in the comments if you accept this charge. Blessing code 1212 is now activated over your next steps, your alignment, and your manifested breakthrough. As this final charge settles into your spirit, understand this with clarity. Every seed you release into this mission becomes a spark that ignites faith in someone standing at the edge of giving up. When you sow through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are not supporting a video. You are releasing oil that keeps this light burning for souls searching in darkness. The Lord declares, cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days, and this is not distant scripture. It is a living promise calling you now. I feel this deeply. I am stepping forward to help carry this message to those who cannot see what you now see. And as you act in this moment, your giving becomes a prophetic response, opening doors not only for others, but for your own overflow. Do not delay what your spirit is prompting you to do. Move now through the PayPal link or the QR code on your screen, and let your obedience become a river that multiplies beyond your understanding. Step into this act of faith now,